Here are the addresses of every factory manufacturing bombs and ammunition for Israel. There are way more locations for these weapons manufacturers like corporate offices and R&D sites, but the sites we listed are the locations that actually physically build and assemble the munitions used by Israel. All of these locations have been carefully mapped out by Christian Sorensen, an Air Force veteran and researcher with the Eisenhower Media Network. So if you can't find a location close to you, you can go to his website and find a corporate office by your location. Ammo is one of the biggest vulnerabilities in Israel's genocide. The bulk of the ammunition they use is manufactured in the United States, not Israel. Without this stable supply line, Israel's genocide would be untenable. A recent report revealed that the US has been secretly sending hundreds of weapons shipments to Israel in the last 5 months, indicating that without this constant flow of ammunition, their operations would become unsustainable. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu admitted as much in a private government meeting in December, saying, "We need 3 things from the US: munitions, munitions, and munitions." He goes on, "There are huge demonstrations in Western capitals," added Netanyahu, whose concerned political pressure overseas might threaten the US arms shipments. "We need to apply counterpressure." Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky more or less said the same thing about US weapons shipments being crucial to his war against Russia. In 1977, the UN Security Council unanimously passed an arms embargo against apartheid South Africa on the basis that those weapons would be used to commit crimes against humanity. Today, the United States is sending weapons to Israel with the knowledge that these weapons will be used to commit genocide. The United States is a signatory to the Arms Trade Treaty, which explicitly prohibits this, but the United States continues to arm Israel anyway. You could argue that the people who've been protesting weapons manufacturers around the country are actually upholding the US's obligation to this treaty where their government has failed. And on a final note, because we know this is going to come up, the people who are protesting weapons factories aren't against people having jobs or feeding their families. They're against a system which forces people to make weapons in order to feed their families. The people working in these factories, the engineers, the metal workers, the rocket scientists, are incredibly talented people. They have skills that would be incredibly beneficial to the society if they were used to build things like public transportation, hospitals, schools, or energy grids. In fact, we don't even need to put a whole lot of thought into what alternatives these factories could be used for, because Christian Sorensen has already listed out how each of these factories can be used in a peace economy. One thing a lot of people don't know is that these weapons companies intentionally spread their offices and factories in every state around the country, so politicians and voters feel like without the arms industry, we'd lose jobs. But these factories can easily be retooled to produce things that actually benefit humanity instead of destroy it. And the fact that some of our greatest scientists and most talented engineers are being used to build weapons for glorified weapons traffickers should be considered a massive indictment of the system and its priorities. On an October 24th investors call discussing the prospect of the US sending more weapons to Israel, the CEO of RTX, formerly Raytheon, said, quote, "I think really across the entire Raytheon portfolio, you're going to see a benefit of this restocking. This genocide is, of course, a land grab, it's colonialism, but it's also big business. And the ones pushing our government to keep this genocide going are these merchants of death who cheer at the advent of war and genocide. As long as there are industries that profit off of war, there's always going to be an incentive to go to war for profit. The US arms trafficking industry spends hundreds of billions of dollars every year lobbying our politicians to maintain a foreign policy of endless war. And they profit off of every bullet and tank that gets sent. In a lot of ways, they operate like a shadow government, pulling the strings on US politics from behind the scenes. So the next time some politician tells you that we need to destroy this or that country for our national security, just remember who's paying them to say that.